fantastic to be back and to be back with you, Jess. Nice to see you.
Absolutely. My name is Jess.
And I'm Sam.
And we are very excited for our new series.
Indeed we are.
Shall we let them know what it is?
If they haven't already guessed, let's go.
Well, we were thinking about some of the things that people need all the time to survive.
Yeah.
Air to breathe, really important. Food to eat.
Water to drink.
Absolutely. Somewhere to shelter and keep themselves safe.
Sleep.
Sleep, definitely sleep. But one of the things that everybody really needs is connection with other people. So this term, we're going to be thinking about amazing friendships.
Do you know, the Bible is full of friendship. From almost the very first page where God says it's not good for people to be alone, right to the very end where there's an enormous party, the biggest ever held, to which everyone is invited.
All of us are very different and we have very different friendships. Some people get lots of energy from being around other people. We sometimes call them extroverts. And then there's people who need a bit of space on their own to feel refreshed, and we call them introverts. Sociologists, big word, who are people who study how humans behave, they say that even those people who are introverts influence around 10,000 people in their lifetimes. But influencing people and being friends with people is not quite the same.
Have you heard this quote from Eleanor Roosevelt, who she was First Lady in the United States.
So she was married to the president.
She was married to the president, but was a politician in her own right,
Amazing.
I have to say. She said that many people walk in and out of your life, but only a true friend will leave footprints on your heart.
That's a wonderful quote. I wonder what you think makes a good friendship and what makes a good friend. Why don't you take a moment now to share some of your ideas together?
What words you came up with in your classrooms. Here's a few that Jess and I thought of to describe what makes a good friend, and we're going to play a game together. Jess, do you want to explain how it works?
Yes, and you can join in with us wherever you are, because this is a guessing game. We're going to take it in turns to describe one of these words, but we're not allowed to use the word in our description, and your job is to help us to guess which word we're describing.
Can you guess it before we do?
Let's see.
Okay.
Brilliant. All right, so I'm thinking of one of these words. It's a really good friend who they don't mind waiting for things, and they don't get annoyed if they have to wait for things. Patient, exactly.
Okay, here's one. Here's someone, they're never boring. They're sometimes maybe a bit wacky or a bit crazy. Make you smile, make you laugh. Fun, there you go.
Did you get that one where you are? Well, what about this one? This is somebody who is a really good friend because they're really reliable. They never let you down. They're always there when you need them. And they are really, really...
Loyal.
Loyal, well done.
Gotcha. I was thinking of my word then, I have to confess. It's not a good... I wouldn't be a good listener. Is one of those on there? Good listener is a good trait for a friend. Be a better listener,
Definitely.
Sam. Okay, here is somebody who is a little bit like a water fountain, bubbling over, whether it's with the words that they say, things that they share. It's somebody who never seems to have too little. If anything, they always have too much.
I think I worked out when you said they're good at sharing. Is it someone who is generous?
Someone who's generous.
Brilliant. Shall we do one more?
Let's do one more.
Okay, this person is a great friend to me even when I mess up and make mistakes.
Ooh, I was going to say loving, but forgiving?
Forgiving, very good. Fantastic. Well, I hope you managed to guess all those words playing along where you are.
As you know, each of our videos has a story from the Bible, and the Bible is full of friendship. From almost the very first page where God says it's not good for people to be alone, right through to the very end where everyone is invited to the biggest party there ever was, it tells us that God made us for connection with himself and connection with others.
Abraham was a farmer. He was a good farmer. He was a rich farmer. He had lots of sheep, lots of camels and lots of servants. He also had a lovely home where he lived with his wife Sarah and their whole household. But Abraham also had something that was better than all of that. He had a very special friend. Who do you think was Abraham's special friend? God was. The Bible tells us that Abraham was a friend of God. And one day God spoke to Abraham. Abraham, I want you to leave this place. I have a better place for you to live in. I'm going to make you father of a great nation. I'm going to make you a blessing to all people on earth. Well, that was quite a speech. What would you have answered, I wonder? What would I? I think I might have asked, where? Or how far is it? Or do I need to pack the... But Abraham didn't ask anything. He just did exactly what God asked him to. Why? Because God was his friend and he trusted him. So off Abraham went to the new land God had chosen for him. Its name was Canaan, and it's what we sometimes call a land flowing with milk and honey, which I guess meant that there were lots of cows, lots of goats and lots of bees there. But I think it was also just a way of saying it was a beautiful place to live, with everything anyone might need. And Abraham liked it very much. There was a serious problem though. I guess a very serious problem. And next time Abraham and God had a chat, Abraham brought it up. God, you said I'm going to be father of a great nation. Well, I don't know how to say this, but how can I be father of a great nation when I don't seem to be even able to father a family? And you know, Sarah and I, we are not spring chickens anymore. I mean, we are seriously old. But God just said, Abraham, do you trust me? Well, I guess that's what we call a rhetorical question. That is a question which we already know the answer to, and we're just saying it for effect. God already knew the answer. Of course Abraham trusted him. He just left everything and travelled to a new land, hadn't he? Just like God had told him to. But God was his friend, his very special friend, and now God was going to ask Abraham to trust him even more. And it wasn't always going to be easy. He needed to help him a little bit. So God decided to take Abraham on a little walk, a nighttime walk. Look up at the sky, Abraham, he said. What do you see? Abraham looked up. Have you ever looked up at the night sky when you're in the middle of the countryside? Did you notice how many more stars you can see when you're far away from all the towns and cities and their lights? That's what Abraham saw. I see stars, God. Lots and lots of twinkling stars, millions of them. That's right, replied God. Billions, actually. Which was perhaps a bit unfair because human beings weren't going to discover how many stars there were for a few thousand years. Anyway, way too many to count. That's the point, said God. So, Abraham, I want you to imagine the nation I'm going to make, starting with your family. There'll be too many to count. The next day, God took Abraham for another walk, a beach walk. Here's another way of looking at it, Abraham. Pick up a handful of sand. See if you can count how many grains there are. Have you ever tried that? No? Well, let me tell you, one handful of sand has a very, very large number of grains, way more than you or I could be bothered to count. Anyway, Abraham was getting the idea. And do you know what he did? He started laughing. He giggled, he chortled, he laughed his head off. Me and Sarah have children? You are joking. But God wasn't joking. This is my number one plan, Abraham. I'm going to do something wonderful for the whole world. Something that will mean every single person in the world can be my friend. And I'm going to do it through you and your family. So wait to hear from me. And what do you think Abraham did? He believed God, of course. Why? Because God was his friend and he trusted him. And it wasn't long before God sent 3 messengers to visit. We'll be coming back to see you and your baby son next year, they said, as they were sitting chatting after their lovely meal that Abraham and Sarah had made them. Someone giggled. Someone chortled. Someone laughed her head off. It was Sarah this time, not Abraham. Me? Have a baby? But the messengers weren't joking either. And when about 9 months later their son was born, there was laughter again. Abraham and Sarah and their whole household, they were laughing for joy. And that's why they decided to name their son Laughter, which in Hebrew is the name Isaac.
Thank you so much, Kathy. What an amazing story that is.
And that was just the beginning. That was the beginning of Abraham's lifetime friendship with God and his journey through life. There were lots of good times and bad times, as there always are. But the thing that made the difference for Abraham is that having God as his friend, knowing that God was always there for him, it changed everything.
It did. You might have found this year that your friendships have changed. I know it's been really hard, hasn't it, Kathy, not being able to meet up with our friends. And
yes.
You might have struggled not being able to meet, to play together, or go to school together, in fact.
Everyone's been struggling with things during lockdown. All of us have, haven't we? And that puts pressure on our friendships. We can't all be perfect friends like God is. We make mistakes. We say things that we don't mean, that are unkind sometimes. But what we can always all know is that with our true friends, there's always a way back, isn't there? We can talk about things. We can forgive our friends. We've got a chance to start again, always.
Do you remember the White Assembly from last term? As long as we're able to ask for and give forgiveness to our friends, we can always make a new start. There can be new growth, new life, like in the Green Assembly. In a moment, I'm going to ask my friend Jess to come and pray for us. That's one of her super qualities. She is a friend who prays. You know how often when Christians pray they will put their hands together? Well, perhaps you could think of a friendship that you have, and each of your hands could be like your friend. Sometimes during lockdown you might have felt your friend has been distant like this. Well, how about when you listen to the prayer, you imagine your friend being close again as well? And what might help for you to be back together as good friends?
Let's put our hands together and pray now. Dear God, thank you that you want to be our friends. Thank you that you made us to be connected with other people. We thank you for all of our friends. We thank you for the fun times we have together and for the times when our friends are there for us. Help us to be good friends too, to be kind and forgiving and faithful and loving and all of these things. And help us to strengthen our friendships this week. Amen.